Dear student, in this session we will discuss subtopic that is command line based operating system part B from unit number 1. So the command line based operating system, the examples are MS-DOS operating system and the UNIX operating system. So let us discuss the MS-DOS, that is the Microsoft's disk operating system. In the 1980s or early 1990s, the operating system that shipped with the version of disk operating system created by Microsoft is MS-DOS. This particular operating system is a disk-based, single-user, single-tasking operating system that uses a command line interface. Now, what is say disk-based? Disk-based means at that time, the operating system, we do not have the hard disk drives. So, the operating system we used to store onto the floppy disk. So, that is what we call it as a disk-based. Then, another one is single user. This particular operating system is used to work for a single user at a time. That's why we used to call it as a single user. And finally, we used to call it as a single tasking. That means only single task or the operation can be performed by this operating system at the time. So if we want to move for some another task, we have to close the first one and switch on to the another one. That's why it is called as a single tasking operating system. These kind of operating systems were used by IBM PCs compatible computers. In those days, it was one of the most popular operating system in the world. The functions or the operation provided or supported by these operating systems are executing the programs of users or the system, controlling the IO devices, handling the errors related to the system, and also providing the user interface. Now, let us see in short the history of MS-DOS. The first version that come up in market in 1981, that is 1.2. Originally, the original version was MS-DOS. Before that, it was named as QDOS, but after purchasing by the Microsoft, the name is MS-DOS. In 1982, the another version, that is 1.25, come up in market, which supports a double-sided disk. Before that, the disk has to turn over to use the other side. The next version come up in market in 1983 is 2.0, in which it supports the additional 10 MBs of HDDs and also the floppy disk with the capacity of 320 KBs. Then in 1983, the version 2.11 come up in the market, which supports the foreign and extended characters were added. In 84, the version 3.0 come up in market, which supports the high density 1.2 MBs of disk drive, floppy disk and maximum 32 MBs of hard disk have been added. Then in 1984, the version 3.1 come up and it supports the networking or the network. Some of the functions of this disk operating systems are, it is used to translate the commands issued by the user. So whatever the commands that we use to give onto the command prompt, those will be executed and the user is given the appropriate resultant value. If there is problem, some sort of errors will be displayed onto the screen so that user can understand the actual problem. The commands are executed by the command line interpreter by translating them into a system call. So these system calls are available with the operating system, and the operating system will perform the task related to the command given by the user. It also manages the disk files, it allocates the system resources as per the system requirement. It also provides essential controls to the various hardware devices such as keyboard, monitors, disk drives, printers, modems, and programs. So, in this way, the disk operating system, that is the Microsoft disk operating system, is used to perform all the activities or the operations related to the operating system. So this is the screenshot of the command line interface for DOS. Now let us see the Unix operating system, which is the another kind of command line interface system. This particular operating system was born in the late 1960s. It was originally begun by Ken Thompson at Bell Labs and has since become the most widely used operating system. It is command line based, and in this, the Unix shell is a program that is used which provides the command line interface. So here, say for example, we can use the dollar prompt or any other prompt with the help of which we can, that is what we call it as a Unix shell, with the help of which we can interact with the system. It accepts the command as an input from the user, interpret them, and then execute them. Then POSIX, that is the Portable Operating System Interface for Unix, through which the user communicate with the system. Now, one of the basic difference between the MS-DOS operating system and the Unix operating system is that it is multi-user operating system. So as we have seen that the MS-DOS, it is a single user operating system. This is multi-user operating system. That means more than one terminal or user is connected with the different computers or different terminals. And the large number of applications are there within the Unix operating system in order to manage or perform various operations related to the user. Now this is the architecture of Unix operating system. It is conceptual model that defines the structure, behavior, and view of the system. The Unix operating system, it is a layered operating system. It consists of following parts, that is the hardware is onto the innermost layer, then kernel is onto the outer layer, shell is again onto the outer layer, and the topmost, that is the outermost layer, is the applications and the utility. So this is how we called it as a layered operating system. So the kernel, it is nothing but a core of the Unix based operating system, which is used to manage all the hardware resources of the computer to provide each process with its virtual resources. It is also responsible for preventing and mitigating the conflicts between the different processes. That means every individual process is executed without conflicting or mixing with each other. Different types of kernels that are available is monolithic, hybrid, micro, and exokernel. Depending on to the features, they have been categorized. Then system library, it is nothing but a special type of function which is used to implement the functionalities of the operating system. Shell, it is nothing but it is used to take the commands from the user. We already seen the dollar prompt. It is nothing but we used to call it as a shell, which is used to take the command from user, executes the kernel command. So while doing this, it also hides the complexity of the kernel's function from the user. So how the shell is interacting with the kernel functions, so those complexities has been hidden by the user. Then the innermost layer we have seen, that is the layer related to hardware, which consists of all the peripheral devices, that is the memories, secondary storage devices, CPU cycle, and so on. So this is what the hardware layer consists of. In the system utility, it provides the functionalities of an operating system to a user. Then some of the features and the capabilities of the Unix operating system. So the first feature we already discussed is the multi-user, that is the multiple user can work onto the system simultaneously by connecting to a point we used to call it as a terminal. So with the help of terminal, all the users are connected to each other. So that's why we used to call it as a multi-user operating system. Another thing is it is a multitasking, that is system can preemptively multitasking. That means the multiple processor can run at the same time or within small time slices. Once the time slice has been completed or the process get completed, any process can be interrupted and may be moved out of execution by the kernel. Then third feature that is related to Unix operating system is it provides the flexibility to be used on multiple hardware architecture. That means the files or the programs can be easily moved from one kind of architecture to hardware architecture to another. So that's why we used to call it as a is portable. Then processes. Files are the collections of data that is created by the user. It may consist of documents, programming instructions, folders, and so on. So the processes that are under execution, that is the programs or files, are given to the processor so that the operating system will perform with the help of operating system we will execute the processes, and the corresponding results will be shared with the user. Then another feature is the communication. So user communicate with the system using the shell, and for doing some sort of communication from one user to another, then the networking standards are used, that is the TCP IP standard. It also provides the easy maintenance of files. It provides a variety of tools for software development and maintenance of the software. Also, it is very much popularly used in almost all desktop computers, laptops, frameworks, mainframes, and the other computing hardwares. So this is all about the Unix operating system, and this is the Unix. This is the terminal, that is the Ubuntu terminal screenshot I have taken over here, and which you will able to see that we have the dollar prompt, and onto the dollar prompt here we are giving the command called as ls command. After giving this particular command and entering, we will able to see over here all the files and directories available onto the desk. So here we will stop regarding the command line interface. In the last subtopic, that is part C, we will see the graphical user interface.